Well, facing major challenges at home and abroad, the president addressed the nation tonight.
In his first State of the Union address, President Biden laid out his plans for confronting rapidly rising prices, the raging war in Ukraine, and much more. And
KCAL9 political reporter joins us now, Tom Wade. He watched it all. He has a closer look at the president's speech.
You know, and I think there were times where he definitely tried to sound a tone of unity. But so we'll see how that plays out, right? So as partisan as Washington is right now, there were dramatic moments of unity tonight, especially on Ukraine, where the president received standing ovations from both sides. President Biden also tried to ease concerns on the other major issues facing Americans, like inflation and the overall economy.
Madam Speaker, the President of the United States.
President Joe Biden's first in-person State of the Union address, right away making history with the first female vice president and woman of color, Kamala Harris, sitting behind him, alongside House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the speech coming in the fading shadow of the pandemic.
Last year, COVID-19 kept us apart. This year, we're finally together again.
The president opened with a fiery condemnation of Russian President Vladimir Putin's bloody and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. Many of the lawmakers in the House chamber wearing the colors of the Ukrainian flag.
He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people.
First Lady Dr. Jill Biden's guest of honor, Ukraine's ambassador, who received a standing ovation.
Let each of us, if you're able to stand and send an unmistakable signal to the world of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Throughout our history, we've learned this lesson. When dictators do not pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos. They keep moving.
President Biden announced even more sanctions on Russia.
And tonight, I'm announcing that we will join our allies in closing off American airspace to all Russian flights, further isolating Russia and adding additional squeeze on their economy.
On the economy and jobs, the president highlighted the passage of the American Rescue Plan at the outset of his administration.
We created jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, our economy created over 6.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs in 1 year than ever before in the history of the United States of America.
And took a victory lap on the passage of his bipartisan infrastructure bill.
Partisan effort, and I want to thank the members of both parties who worked to make it happen. We're done talking about infrastructure weeks. We're now talking about an infrastructure decade.
The issue of inflation, another crisis facing the president, also taking center stage.
But the pandemic meant that businesses had a hard time hiring enough people because of the pandemic to keep up production in their factories. So you didn't have people making those beams that went into buildings because they were out. The factory was closed. The panic also disrupted the global supply chain. Factories close. When that happens, it takes longer to make goods and get them to the warehouses, to the stores, and prices go up.
President Biden says moving manufacturing back to the U.S. is one solution.
Make more cars and semiconductors in America. More infrastructure and innovation in America.
And on the pandemic, Biden sounding a hopeful tone.
We've reached a new moment in the fight against COVID-19, where severe cases are down to a level not seen since July of last year. Just a few days ago, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued a new mask guidelines.
The president also used his speech for more partisan issues, like a federal voting rights bill supported by Democrats but opposed by the GOP, abortion rights, gun control, and he also urged the Senate to confirm his historic nominee for the Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson.
One of our nation's top legal minds, who continue in Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence.
As he wrapped up, the president tried to close with optimism.
The State of the Union is strong because you, the American people, are strong. We are stronger today. We are stronger today than we were a year ago. And we'll be stronger a year from now than we are today. This is our moment.
And as is tradition, the president will hit the road tomorrow. He's going to Wisconsin with the First Lady to talk about his domestic agenda. Pat, back to you.